This is fine. 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 This is a poor substitute for therapy, but an excellent substitute for other podcasts. We're not like other podcasts. Join us as we find the answers to the universe's biggest questions like, is butter a carb? Does crying burn calories? And what the fuck am I doing with my life? We're here to be your part-time therapist, astrologer, concierge doctor, and fairy godmother. Do you need someone to validate you today? Cool. Come on in. We're fine. This is fine. Welcome back, beautiful angels, my This Is Fine community. This is your host, Dominique. How are y'all doing today? We're jumping into Scorpio season, and this year that also means we are in eclipse season. If you know a teensy bit about astrology, eclipse season can sound like a terrifying phrase, and it kind of is. Eclipse season is intense, but we are going to walk you through it, share a bit of advice, and impart some intel about how you can harness the power of this energy. Your eclipse season survival guide is here, courtesy of master astrologer, cosmic queen, oracular astrology educator, Shannon Aganza. Shannon is about to share some heavier info, so buckle up. It's going to be a wild ride today, folks. Maybe get yourself a nice soft blanket or a comfort Starbucks, grab your dog or a crystal, whatever makes you feel good. All right, are you ready? Let's go. Shannon, welcome back.
Thank you.
We start off all of our episodes, as you know, with the same question. Are you fine today?
Do you want an honest answer?
I mean, I think, okay, to be transparent with our listeners, neither of us are fine today. We're both doing our best.
We're doing our best.
We're doing our best. And
we're moving into fine. We're finding our inner fine.
If you need me, you can find me at the end of my rope. Thank you very much. We're doing amazing. So yeah, the This Is Fine energy today is very much this is fine while my house is burning down around me. And that really brings us into the very, I was going to say light topic, super light topic of eclipse season. So ladies and gents, if you are not familiar with eclipses or what eclipse season means, we're going to get into that. It begins October 25th and is going through roughly November 8th. Shannon will explain all of that in much more specific and precise detail. But Shannon, let's get it started with a quick vocab lesson. Vocab. What is an eclipse?
Okay, so eclipses happen when we have the sun, moon, earth all in alignment with each other. So we're at that, there's an ecliptic where everything lines up. When the sun and moon crosses this, it kind of, these rotation patterns happen at a diagonal, not like how we think of a straight linear. So these nodal points, the nodes being crossing points, migrate. They spend about a year and a half in each pair of signs. And wherever we have on one side, it's the same on the other.
Okay.
So within that, the signs, we are always working with a pair.
Right.
And so wherever these nodes are, and then I'll explain what nodes, like literally what they are, that's where we are working on an accelerated level where things are brought up to the surface in a more rapid way. And the south node is sort of the place where we're working to vent, to clear.
Release.
And the north node is where we are moving towards. It offers the remedy.
Okay.
And sort of we're looking at we work to synthesize those polarities. And right now we're in the cycle of the north node is in Taurus and the south node is in Scorpio. So where south node Scorpio comes in, it's a happy place for south node because the south node loves the efficiency of Scorpio.
Right. The digesting and releasing.
The clearing.
Composting.
Eradicating.
Right. The destruction.
and just removal.
Right.
Like the removal of what no longer works.
Right. And if you remember from a previous episode, I think it was the moon episode, we talked about how Scorpio is the ruler, the zodiacal ruler of the colon. So literally expelling what's not working anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
And if we look at the nodes with the model of the head of the dragon and the tail of the dragon, the head of the dragon, that's an Indian astrology reference, they look at the dragon head where the north node is consuming. It's the mouth. Like, what more do I need? And then we look at the tail as the south node of exactly what are we releasing? What are we pooping out? What are we letting leave our life?
So you mentioned that this is working with something on an accelerated pace. So we have a new moon and a full moon every single month, right?
Yes.
But when they align with the nodes, as you were mentioning, that's when it's an eclipse. So we get like a regular kind of lesson every month, but then when it gets to the nodes and the eclipses, that's like the boot camp.
Yeah. Things moving at a more rapid pace. It's more efficient to what we need. And because it is a full moon, new moon, illumination timed event, that means now the cycle that we're in, it's going to be when the sun is in Scorpio or the sun is in Taurus.
Right.
And so we've already had our first set back in
May.
Spring.
Yeah.
And now this will be our second set, and we will get a third set. That's generally the rule because it's a year and a half.
Oh, right.
And we get eclipses about every 6 months.
Okay. So we'll get another one back in Taurus season in the coming spring. Okay.
Exactly. And that one's not going to be like this
as gnarly. Okay.
This one's intense. Like, there's no wiggling out. And let me just another level of like the anatomy of working with eclipses is we're looking to synthesize these polarities. The south node kind of holds the patterns within the soul record that hold those, like, even gifts, skills, talents, but also patterns that we may need to resolve and heal in order to integrate. And so just that's true in your own chart. We all have a south node and north node. So we know when we look at the south node, we have that which we're working on through our life. And then we have the ones that come up during, these timed events. And let me specify this as well, that it's really the Scorpios, the Tauruses, the Aquarians, and the Leos that have the strongest, most intimate connection with this polarity.
And so that's for people with those rising signs, sun signs, both?
Any strong planet in those signs are going to get an upgrade.
Okay, so if you have strong fixed energy in your chart,
yes,
you're feeling it.
You're feeling it.
Okay.
And also, well, we can break this down too, that if it's in Scorpio, we know we're doing a lot of roto-rooter work.
Okay.
It's like we're cleaning
house.
Which is, really to be embraced.
Yeah.
It gives me goosebumps.
I mean, I love a good clean out.
Yes. And we get to clear things that aren't just of this lifetime. Like with the Scorpio has no, it's like, okay, you process this lifetime. I'm still here. We're going to keep going.
Wow.
It'll which is good. It's good. And then people who have strong Taurus. So again, if you look at your chart, you see if there are any planets in any of these signs. So Scorpio planets, ascendant, even midheaven. What am I doing in my career? Maybe I need to reframe how I'm doing it.
Yeah.
The Taurus tribe are getting information of, I need to go in this direction. And it can sometimes even be jarring on that because north nodes are considered more of like on the benefic side and south node would be considered malefic when we've talked about that. Not being malefic being course correction.
Not scary.
Not scary. Malefic being working constructively.
Like disciplinarian almost. Like you got to have the discipline.
Not in Scorp, not when we're talking about that. This is pure clearing for your betterment.
Yeah. Doing the work to make you better.
Yes.
Okay.
And then both Leo and Aquarius, they might not feel it as intensely like the thumb is on you, but they might, it's a square. So what does square do?
Tension.
We're just in the class. Yes.
Yeah.
Tension, challenge.
Yeah.
You feel challenged.
You got to do the work.
You got to do the work, but
and it's a fixed square.
It's a fixed square, which are usually the most non-bending.
Right.
And so
unyielding.
And so there can be a stubbornness there, but the trying to will through it or not do, but that's like feeling challenged from outside of the world. Like, no, you need to do this. And so, just learning to flow with it, which really, as we get into this particular set of eclipses, the planets that we have involved in these two, lunations, definitely we're doing the work. It is that, like, I think of it in terms of like the parent helping the child clean their room. It's like, we're going to do this. I will help you.
You got to do this.
We're
together.
doing this,
Yeah.
but it's getting done. This is not getting done.
And speaking of planets in Scorpio, I'm just thinking generationally, millennials, for the most part, all have Pluto in Scorpio. Does that have any bearing on like...
That's generational.
Okay, so it's not as much like that personal
no.
like tension of like having your sun or your Mars there.
That's your next class.
Cool.
You will learn to
just jumping ahead a little bit.
Distinguish between personal planets and generational planets.
Cool.
But it does take me into the next statement that I was going to make about like if you do have like more of an outer planet, but also if you don't have any planets in these configurations, we're looking at collective patterns.
Okay.
Nodes are the thing. You've probably heard me say this on this podcast before. If we've talked nodes, I feel like we have.
Yeah, probably.
That when I want to take the pulse of where everybody is, what is the thing that joins everybody on the planet? It would be the nodes. What are we collectively working on? So yeah, that it's like one of the eclipses falls on a voting day. It's like, so that brings in, that brings some stuff in there, and which will be interesting because just glancing at it, the planet Uranus is going to be right on it.
The big disruptor planet, for those of you who are less familiar with Uranus.
But also the unexpected.
Yeah.
So
expect the unexpected.
Yeah. So we don't, and that could go in either direction. You know, we don't know. But I think it will be a disruptor. So yeah, when we're looking, so we know what the south node is and the north node, again, so all of us are clearing Scorpio type things. What are Scorpio things?
Intensity, power.
And imbalance of power.
Psychology. Like
deep psychological wounds.
Yeah.
Going through those.
Yeah, like emotional.
Yeah, emotional.
Right.
Patterns that have been held in place for a really long time.
Okay.
The hidden.
Right. What's beneath the surface.
What's beneath the surface.
Transformation, death, rebirth.
Yeah.
Okay.
All those keywords. And then Taurus is...
Studying all your PDFs.
I love it. It's like, wow, that sounds great.
You said it.
It's so funny. I've been so guilty of that so many times.
I do it too.
Amazing. That's brilliant.
Nina did that to me. She said something and she's like, I loved this quote. I was like, that's amazing. And she was like, you literally wrote it. I'm like, oh.
That's the best. I love it.
Okay, so Scorpio keywords, now moving into Taurus keywords.
So on a whole, we're all doing that work, clearing, looking at things, you know, and then North Node is just grounding, seeing the truth, and Taurus, Taurus quality, just like even simplifying, like that's my keyword. It's like simplify, not adding more.
Okay.
Removing things and seeing things for what they are.
Yeah.
Like, that's it right there.
Kind of feels like everything's back to basics. Like
back to basics and removing the noise.
Yeah.
The chatter. The clutter. And that's the thing. So we also have Mars going retrograde right after the first eclipse.
Right. Okay. In late October.
And on October 30th.
Okay.
At 25 degrees.
Spooky season.
Exactly. But that, you know, speaking of, you know, even media noise, because it's in Gemini. So it's like, oh, the voices and everybody fighting for, you know, their little words being, heard and without their depth. And so it is like technically direct, about to go retrograde on the first one, and then at 25 degrees, Gemini. And then when it starts its retrograde, it will still be at that 25 degrees. So we have the ruler, the Mars planet, ruling the south node.
Scorpio.
Stationary.
Okay.
Not like, because this is a thing. Someday we'll do a podcast on the anatomy of a retrograde.
Oh, yeah, I love that.
And the thing of it is when a planet is stationed in either direction, stationed to go back or stationed to go forward, that can sometimes be more problematic than even a retrograde planet, because at least it has
interesting.
motion.
Okay.
So we're standing still. So there could be a lot of benefit with this, because it is like calming, hopefully you can go inside and stop. You know what I mean?
Right.
Before you act, because that's Mars, who wants to be really volatile with
especially
words, using words as weapons.
Yeah, like erratic words.
Yeah.
In Mars.
Exactly.
With
it's
Mars.
Words as weapons.
Yeah, okay.
And then going, oops, I wish I hadn't said that.
So some foot in mouth.
Hopefully that will create some pause.
Okay. Yeah, I feel like it's a car, like it's the foot's on the brake and you're putting it in reverse.
Yes, exactly. And this is the thing. This is where Taurus acts as a corrective measure.
Got it.
Because it is this sort of balance. It creates a balance. It's a remedy for the unconsciousness of Scorpio, where it's like, or that hidden stuff, or that deeply buried anger that's trying to come out. And the negative patterning, like we can have some negative, and Scorpios, do not hear that you're those things.
Right.
It's the south node. When the south node is in any sign, it's working on the shadow side of that sign.
Oh, that's
any
good
sign.
intel.
So I'm not picking on Scorpio.
Yeah.
If anything, like I said, at the end of the day, I'm really grateful. I am grateful because we have lived, like society has felt just on edge for some time. And this is like root cause type stuff. We want the root cause. We don't want to keep falsely medicating.
Right. Putting Band-Aids over something. Yeah.
And this just gets to the base. And then we get to rebuild. And by the way, that was the thing, like looking at these lunations, these eclipses, I have a lot of hope for afterward. Like, even though I think we're going to be economically doing some things, that's the other thing.
Yeah.
But we're dealing with real. That's Taurus. We're dealing with
what is real.
And it is a time, I will say, to be, more compassionate with self and others. And even if, because this is my feeling, this is that whatever strongly held, here's this fixed energy, whatever strongly, stubbornly held viewpoints, I don't care which side you're on, if I'm following the laws of astrology, if you're too calcified in your perception, you're going to be like put to your knees. That's an extreme case, but you will be faced with the imbalance of that perspective.
Okay, so it's kind of
either side,
breaking it up
either
a little
side.
bit. Like
exactly.
we become so extreme and polarized, it comes in here, it breaks up all that kind of like stiffness.
Yes. And it may be that your ideals, you're like, nope, same ideals. I feel very strongly committed to this. But what may yield or shift will be, understanding of others, maybe not
sharing that ideal.
Not sharing that ideal, and maybe, coming from a place like, oh, okay, well, this is what they've been fed to believe is true.
Right.
So it's like, oh, okay, maybe when I say the word ignorance, I just mean like,
not being aware.
Yeah, not being aware. And so I think we're all going to be coming into awareness.
So it's a little bit of an enlightenment almost.
Yes. And, going to times where we work together, It's the beginning. I'm not saying I think we're going to be all kumbaya by
it's the Renaissance.
Yeah. But this is what, we're kind of moving towards. And so
that's positive. Wasn't expecting that.
No, but this is the thing. We know this. If you're diagnosed, I feel like our nation, even the world a little bit, being diagnosed with, oh, you have a tumor, but let's go in and eradicate this. Yeah. Like, that's where we're at.
Okay.
And I know this is so extreme how I'm saying it, but
it makes sense.
But here we are. We're all here for growth, right? Mm-hmm. We're all here for being able to move into our most radiant self, our most true self, right? Mm-hmm. And so,
So we're looking at that collective energy. Would we also look to our charts to see what houses would be affected?
Yes, just like we said with the planets, look and see. But regardless if you have planets, this will be happening in a polarity of houses. And so you already know, because the energy's already been there.
Yeah.
We technically went into Scorpio Taurus nodes on January 19th of this year. And then we've had one set of eclipses to sort of like, oh, there it is.
In the springtime.
And here's the other thing, like not to rattle people, but to, it's issues of security. It's issues of money. It's issues of debt. How do I spend my money? Oh my God. I wish I'd been more conscious about how I was spending my money.
Right.
Or vice versa, where can I be more generous, is the other side, or where am I
abundant?
Yeah. And so that's what we're looking at. So if we look at the new moon, it's funny because I just asked Dominique before this. It's like, oh my gosh, remember because we both helped my daughter Nina with her moon dweller. And this is where I came to this because I do all the forecasting. And so this was like a year ago when I was doing this. And I remember coming to these lunations, of where we are now, and like, oh, there it is. We've all been waiting for this impending doom, and I found it.
I found the doom. I did
it. And I feel comfortable saying this because, like I said, it was like reading a book, as I'm looking, literally gripping story as I'm looking at these planets interfacing with each other. But then it does continue that there is this radiance after these two, after the new moon and then the full moon, that it's like, oh, there's tremendous hope. There's tremendous light at the end of the tunnel.
Okay.
It's like heaven's gates kind of thing. So
beautiful.
It's,
the sunshine after the storm.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's why I encourage people to really go deep. But I had you, it's like, hey, can you pull that up? Because I remember being able to language this in a better way.
Yeah, so it's beautiful. Go for it.
So I'm going to read this that I wrote last year because it does sound nicer than I'm speaking right now because I'm feeling dredged. I'm going through the Scorpio mode right now.
Yeah.
Which it's all good.
We're both there and I'm both fine.
Exactly. And here's the other thing, like being able to do the work. We were talking about this earlier too. When things come up right now, you deal with it now.
Immediately,
because then there's so much benefit to this. Like, I know I sound down, but I promise you come out radiant and clean, So, okay, I'm going to read this. October 25th, new moon in Scorpio at 3:48 a.m. Pacific time. This is a new moon solar eclipse in Scorpio. Venus begins her ascent, her crossing from the underworld to above ground, from being a warrior goddess to a love goddess, from being a rising star, which she's riding at dawn when she's rising, to being a setting star, where she just has love and compassion. This is literally when this new moon is happening. And while new moons in general herald a reset point in the month, this particular new moon sends us into inner contemplation. This Scorpio moon is joined by Venus, who has just begun reassessing her strength, her power, vitality, and resources. She's assessing where she needs boundaries, when to assert, when to retreat. With the South Node in Scorpio as well, we benefit from building the courage to uncover the buried blocks that keep us stifled. With the ruler in this new moon, Mars in Gemini, beginning its retrograde cycle on this new moon, we are starting our journey to find light in the dark, to navigate back to our light, bringing lightness to our journey. So that's the new moon. And I'm so happy I wrote that because we know Venus is one of the benefics, right?
Happy feelings.
Happy feelings and helper. And while she is in Scorpio, she's just been where life is not easy in the underworld, but she's ascending into the light. So what that literally is, it means Venus is crossing the sun. And so that's what she does. She and Mercury have this relationship with the sun where they spend this time either as a rising star or a setting star because they're never far from the sun. But they behave differently based on which orientation they have to the sun.
Okay.
So when we have this happening, there is benefit. We may not see it yet because we can't see Venus. She's under the beams. She's drowned out by the light of the sun. but she's there. And she's moving into a more loving interface. And by the time we get to the full moon, she will be completely in light. We will see her beautifully setting on the horizon at sunset. But this is a thing that we will already, all of us will have that feeling of like, oh, I just am coming off the battlefield.
Yeah.
I feel like I just got somewhere.
Like a gasp for air.
And then we look around, it's like, oh, there's war on the streets. Like, what have you been doing while I have been with Hades? Like, and so that tone is still, a little bit gripping. And then for the full moon, which is November 8th at 3:02 a.m. Pacific time, this is a full moon lunar eclipse in Taurus. So this could be the most intense of the full moons this year. The urge to retreat into the womb of Mama Taurus is real, because that's the thing. Taurus is the womb, and especially when the moon is there. So it's a placement where we know the moon is exalted and it's very strong. But I want us to look at this as not as a place to hide, but we want to look at this as a place to do that work. So the new moon, if we use this correctly, we're able to run into, we were talking about this earlier too, the bison in Colorado. There's two types. One, when they see a storm, they run as fast as they can towards the storm, which is what we want to do.
Right.
It seems counterintuitive, but then we cross it and it's much easier.
It's over
and
quicker.
It's shorter.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And the other bison, they see a storm coming and they start running away from it. And then they end up in the storm for much, much longer because they're actually traveling with the storm.
Right.
So we don't want to shy away. If there's ever a time in our life right now, regardless of what your chart says, but certainly, yes, the houses that these are in, you're going to get the most bang for your buck if you focus your efforts on that.
Don't let it fester, whatever it is.
Yeah, just go straight into whatever it is. And you can do this privately. As a matter of fact, that is how I look at this.
You should, yeah.
That this is the work that nobody can do except for yourself.
Yeah.
And so if we go in, we can undo. And by the way, like working on it right now, we have a few days that we could do a lot of clearing just by being open to clearing. Open to clearing is a lot of the work. And so this moon space, this exalted moon womb, that's the greatest place we could be to do this work. It's the safest place we could be to do this work. This is why we know this benefits us. We're moving through to a good place. So while we're in this Taurus moon space, we find ourselves sitting with our inner demons, trying to break free from the prison of our own self, unconsciousness. And so this isn't a bad thing. Everybody has this.
Everyone's favorite activity, sitting with their inner demons.
But what we have is this opportunity for these things to be seen, to be illuminated, and to be understood. Because that's what it is. We're taking the energy of fear out of this. So we're facing our fears, really, is what we're doing. And so with Uranus, we already said that earlier, that's the key planet sitting with this one. With the full moon is the planet Uranus, like exactly on the same degree with the moon. Uranus doesn't let us sit idle,
Uranus is an active energy.
Yes, it is a very active. So sitting there, it may feel like an agitator because it has that not allowing us to sit, kind of creating an inner restlessness felt literally at the depth of the soul. But Uranus is there to act as a liberator. Like that's all Uranus is trying to do. It's like, that's why it's lightning. It's like, look, break free. You're your own worst enemy. Here, so there is a lot going on. And this work is best done solo. We said that earlier. And Venus, the ruler of this full moon, because Venus rules
Taurus.
So
we've got a Venus eclipse and a Mars eclipse.
Yes, exactly. Cool. So Venus and Mars are the two planets really strong during this particular eclipse, the nodal cycle,
right.
Taurus Scorpio. And so that Venus is sitting there with the sun, opposite the moon, waiting for you to come out of your cave. Newly detoxed at a soul level and just able to more easily grasp the gifts of that North Node in Taurus on this evolving journey. So it's sort of like be open to the dark night of the soul, if that's what needs to happen. Here's another thing. Say you are fine. You're like, I'm fine. Maybe what you can do is hold space for other people. And the best way we can hold space for others is to just be understanding and forgiving and giving a little bit longer rope, or just, if you don't feel capable of doing that, don't add to the conversation.
Yeah.
Just retreat. Go journal. Because it is a pretty reactive. Yeah, we can be reactive.
Volatile.
Yeah. And just even at a mild level, just irritating.
Yeah. Inflamed.
Inflamed. But this is when we can get the most work done. And again, I don't mean to sound negative. It's just like we all have this work to do. And I think we will see a tone of this working collectively.
Right.
I have some really good friends who just got back from Cyprus.
Cool.
And Cyprus is very international, for where it sits. It's, and just the tone, she said, and her husband's European, is that, it's like this is a global thing. It isn't just a U.S. thing.
Right.
And so
that's good to know that, it's not an isolated thing just with us. We're all kind of collectively, globally going through the same energy and shifts.
That's what I think. Like if we go to the end of this, what do I think this is all for?
Right.
A lot of it has to do with us maturing and knowing we're not on a bunch of little islands. Like there are things that are very good to bring up and heal, we could say patterns within a collective group.
Yeah.
And they need their healing. They need their time. They need their acceptance. But then there's a point, okay, we're going to need to work together at some point. And so that's where I'm going with this, that I think, we're looking at the world in a place where we're better together than separate.
Yeah, I love that. That's so like peace and love, beautiful sunshine and rainbows for spooky season. So I love that.
And, without even thinking about it, that is Taurus, right?
Yeah.
Taurus is ruled by Venus, and Venus will be freshly becoming a love goddess. So she's not looking to be enemies. She's looking, what does love do? It unifies.
Yeah,
that's kind of where we're going.
That's beautiful. Okay, so a quick recap for anyone who's taking notes. A few things that you want to do during this time period between the two eclipses. Be more compassionate with yourself and others. Be forgiving and maybe, cool it if you're feeling reactionary. Spend time in quiet reflection, retreat, journal, do solo inner work. Dig up the stuff that you have suppressed and work on it. Charge into it. Don't avoid it. Anything else to really work on?
It's paying attention to what's right in front of you.
Yeah.
Don't have to go far. It's inner and within hand's reach. It's like the plant. Oh, there's the plant. The plant needs water.
Okay.
It's like that. It's
that simple.
It's that simple.
But we're not paying attention to it most of the time.
Right.
Okay.
Exactly. Because we're going.
Do you have any prompts that might bring that up, like working with these inner demons or releasing during this season, like something to ask yourself, whether just to reflect on it or journal?
I don't want to give a prompt because I want you to go in and let it reveal itself to you. Because it's going to be different for you than it is for another person and for me and for other. That's the whole point of this, is that we're maturing into being able to identify things for ourselves.
Okay.
That we're needing to, that's part of the maturity.
Yeah. So it's just what inner work do I need to be doing?
Yeah. And going and just looking at what do I need to clear? What toxic energy, what toxic relationships, what toxic thought patterns do I have? More than anything, that's it. If we want to focus on one thing, with Mars going retrograde in Gemini, it's what harmful thoughts do I hold? What toxic thoughts do I hold? What negative thought forms need releasing from my being? What negative thought forms do I need to break any and all contracts that I have made with these negative thought forms. Because negative thought forms, I know it sounds that's like a whole other podcast, but they have palpable energy when we interface with it.
Yeah.
And sometimes we inherit them. Sometimes they come down through, ancestry and our bloodline. So that would be a thing that, which I said, no, I'm not doing it. And now here it is.
I have a perfect one for you.
But that's it. But only you know what those negative thought forms are.
But that's a perfect thing to explain this to someone who's I don't fully grasp what we're saying. And it's this is what you got to look at.
Right.
But do it yourself.
Yes, because you get to go into the cave alone. That was the thing, I have to say, when I was scanning this. And it gives me goosebumps. Last year, and I'm looking at this particular time that we are now in, it was like this, high budget movie, that was wow, look at all this stuff going on. And the one that I was thinking of in particular was Clash of the Titans, where Perseus was tasked, to go in and, he was working to save Andromeda, I believe. Now that I say it's
yes,
do I
absolutely.
know this? From the Kraken, release the Kraken. I just remember. But and there was a lot of some of the gods, goddesses peering down were trying to sabotage him. They didn't want him to succeed, and other ones really wanted him to succeed. And so they were giving him. This is we're having our own hero's journey right now.
Okay.
There's another thing.
Ooh.
You know what? I will give you the copy, and you can put this in the show notes of a whole thing. For some of you may already know the hero's journey prompting, but you can go through this. Boy, you want to give a place for this energy to land and have, how do I say that? It's a catalyst, a place for it to move through. This would be a great thing because it is. It's your own hero's journey. You're going in. And so we'll do that. But to finish up, as I'm looking at the movies, the big imagery that they were giving me was Perseus having to go into Medusa's cave. He had to do it, but they gave him a shield. They gave him a sword. They gave him, he had the
tools,
the owl, that I think Hephaestus made for him. And so we are being given tools, but only we can go in and do the work.
Only you can enter the cave.
Yep.
Okay.
And we come out
Harry Potter and
victorious.
the Chamber of Secrets.
It's a hero's journey model.
Yeah, we've got the Harry Potter, the Phoenix is going to drop him the hat that's got the sword in it, but only Harry can defeat the basilisk.
Oh, that's right.
This got really millennial really quickly. I'm so sorry. Okay, last question, I promise. This is just real quick. There's a lot of pop astrology on social media that talks about things that you should do on full and new moons. And a lot of them are around setting intentions or charging your crystals. This is not the time to do either of those things. Is that correct?
So I'm happy you did ask that this particular new moon, to me, just like I said earlier, we might want to be more introspective than initiating out.
Yeah, forward vision. Yeah.
Because here's the thing. The whole anatomy of a lunation cycle, it starts dark. That's new moon. The moon doesn't have light in it. And the reason why we set our intentions is that we give input as to how we want to fill that light up. So then it fills up with light, and then it's full, and then we're in a releasing mode. And that's why, in general, we want to be clearing, around that time. And so for this particular one, we're looking at more being open to the releasing whatever needs to be released. And you're allowed to ask for protection, whatever that means. I ask the forces of nature to protect my fields during this journey. If you believe in angels, I ask Archangel Michael for a golden sphere of protection. Whatever is your jam, that you go to, just reinforce that so you know that you're safe to do it. The other thing with the crystals, I just wanted to mention, cleansing in a full moon. Yeah, you may not necessarily want that light on this one unless you want to leave a crystal out, and we ask for the nurturance of the Taurus moon, to charge it. But eclipses are not energy that we want living in our crystals.
Right, right.
If it's a temporary thing, that's one thing. And here's another little thing, because I mean, sometimes I'll do a full moon, but what is the full moon? It's the light of the sun being reflected back. I like good old solar energy just blasting my crystals. So I will sit them out in daytime even.
Right.
It doesn't,
I do the same.
because the moon is like filtered light, which is beautiful. I think it's better for us to recharge ourselves because it's a way to gaze at sunlight that you can look directly
without destroying your retinas.
Exactly. Non-retinal disruption. So
no, it's so true. I put mine out in the Virgo sun, obviously. I'm just like, charge it up, baby. Please clean me.
But it is, I think, will come out fresh. You know how you feel so good after a good cry? It's like,
yes, every day.
It's like, we're looking at that possibility, like to have that real feeling. And then you just feel, refreshed. And then we are moving into Sag energy, and Jupiter, by the second lunation, by the full moon, it will have moved back into Pisces and for this little bit of time.
We love that.
So Jupiter's sitting 29 Pisces, and
beautiful, and Sag.
Jupiter is the greater benefic.
Yeah. It's we talked about this before, I think, like kind of, oh no, that was Sagittarius, the Santa Claus energy. But Jupiter is like big benefic, like fortune.
Yes. And in Pisces, and it will be also with Neptune. Neptune will be there, which,
nice.
We know this. I am a traditional astrologer. I do not give Neptune rulership. I don't give the outer planets rulership. However, Neptune does have a natural affinity for Pisces.
The dreaminess.
So Jupiter and Neptune, we're talking about in Pisces, it's doing work for us on a high celestial level.
That sounds lovely.
It's working, it's advocating for our spiritual selves.
Cool.
Whatever that means. You can be an atheist and be highly spiritual, meaning we all have a spirit, and that we're like connected with nature, whatever that is. But whatever it is, they're there helping us. And Jupiter in particular, that's a really lovely placement.
Yeah.
So
there really is so much light at the end of the tunnel.
Yes, and if I want to go one step further on that second one, like don't give up hope, you can make it.
Yeah.
That
dangle that carrot.
Jupiter and Venus, the two benefics, will be trining each other. So they're in harmony.
Oh,
they're working on both sides. And what you learned in the class and the course is, Jupiter rules by day and Venus rules by night.
Yes.
So we're covered 24 hours. All 24 hours are covered.
With like the happy, beautiful, lovely, bouncy.
And working for our benefit.
Yeah.
It's like, you guys are going to be so, okay, you people, I keep trying to say it.
It's like I say you guys all the time.
We're working to benefit you.
Yeah.
So
we're going to come out of this and we're going to be okay. It just might like kind of suck for a little bit.
Yeah. And we better do a podcast for Sag that we click right in.
I know.
Go, yay!
We're good. After we come out of this, we opened up this episode with everything sucks for us right now. We're just having a total shit day / week.
And, it probably today is September 16th. We'll say time of doing this. We are feeling sort of the end of Virgo.
Right.
So what is Virgo? The refiner. So it's already, again, pulling up, and Mars is it's in its window of where it's going to be when it is in retrograde. Yeah, so there we go. We have all the stats.
Yeah, we're going to come out of it, and next time we talk to you guys, we're going to be a little happier, I think. Yeah, we'll be much peppier. But I feel like we didn't leave you with too much spookiness.
And the hero's journey.
Hero's journey.
And it buffers.
Shannon, thank you so much for being here, for guiding us through as our...
I'm happy I got it. Thank you.
I feel like you're holding the lantern as we walk through eclipse season. It's all dark and you're like, it's okay, you guys.
It is okay, actually.
Yeah.
And I say thank you instead of Shannon, you were here today.
Yes.
There you are.
Yep, we did it.
We did it.
Thank you so much. I'm so grateful to have you back here in the studio. As always, you're the best. We love you. We're obsessed with everything you teach us. So,
well,
God bless.
We'll teach some funner stuff later.
Funner stuff next time.
Next time.
Alrighty, my loves, I hope this spooky season, Scorpio season, eclipse season survival guide has you feeling a little less frightened, perhaps more prepared, more empowered, illuminated, ready to take on the coming weeks with the most strength possible. We are in this together. I'm holding your hand. I'm holding you close. Wishing you a happy and safe Halloween. Next time we chat, I am going to be in full-blown holiday mode, so buckle up. See you soon. A biento. Bye. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of This Is Fine. I've been your host, Dominique Michelle Astorino. We're based in San Diego, recording in studio at DLI Productions in Pacific Beach with Emmy Award-winning sound designer Dan De La Isla. This is a comedy and advice podcast, but for legal reasons, this entire podcast is a joke and none of it is medical advice. To download the transcript or learn more, visit thisisfinepodcast.com.